And today I'm very happy to be introducing Cycle Network to everyone and what we're building here. Cycle Network, what it aims to achieve is essentially simplify and enhance the experience that both users and developers have in Web3. And to achieve that very goal, we're building a bridges liquidity abstraction solution that is achieved through verifiable state aggregation. And at this point in time, we support all BTC as well as EVM compatible networks. And we believe that this innovation will simplify the interactions that people have in Web3. It will allow for more scalability and open new doors for opportunity and growth. But before we actually discuss the solutions that we're building and the value that we're trying to provide to the space with Cycle Network, I would like us to spend a little bit of time analyzing and better understanding some of the challenges that we now face in Web3. And perhaps the biggest challenge that we have in Web3 is liquidity fragmentation. Liquidity being scattered across different chains and layers and ecosystems. This allows and disempowers projects and chains alike from reaching their full potential and making the most of what the space has to offer. An additional challenge that we face is the fact that the space as a whole is very complex to the average Web2 user. If we take someone that is using the internet, for instance, and put them in Web3, they will find it extremely daunting and intimidating because of all the complexity that they have to deal with. They have to deal with different layers, different ecosystems, different accounts, different wallets, different seed phrases, and that is extremely difficult for someone who hasn't been through that process in the past. And even though we have billions of users in Web2, we see that when it comes to native Web3 applications, that number is significantly decreased. And we also see and observe that those people that come from Web2, they choose to engage with the space through centralized exchanges, which have to a certain level achieve what we call chain abstraction, but in a centralized way. What we want to achieve at Cycle Network is a similar level of chain abstraction, but in a decentralized type of manner. So our mission at Cycle Network then becomes to obtain a global state view of all blockchains, to unify liquidity, simplify the Web3 ecosystem, enhance user experience, and expedite the transition of Web2 users to Web3. And this is a graph that showcases and illustrates how things currently are and how users and developers alike experience Web3 at this point in time and how they would be able to experience it by using Cycle Network. And we know that if someone wants to engage with different ecosystems, different blockchains, then they will need to have different tokens, they will have to bridge tokens, they will have to pay multiple gas fees, and the total amount of gas fees that they will have to pay would definitely not be insignificant. It would be quite high. But with Cycle Network, a user would be able to directly engage with a dApp or chain of their choice and only pay gas fees once in the token of their choice. The same goes for developers. If they now wish to expand to different chains, then they have to deploy their technology and design it for those specific ecosystems. But by using Cycle Network and integrating our SDK, those same developers will be able to tap automatically into a wider pool of Web3 users. So just to give you a high-level technical overview of how Cycle Network is structured, we see that at the bottom we have the security layer, which is Ethereum, which in turn allows us to inherit its stability and safety. In the middle, we have the Cycle network that is a rollup connecting Cycle to different chains. And at the very top, we have the extend layer that refers to all the chains and networks that Cycle network is connected to, except Ethereum, of course. And then we also have two interfaces. The first one is the roll-in interface that refers to all deposit transactions and messages from other chains to Cycle. And the rollout interface that refers to all withdrawal transactions and messages from Cycle to other chains. And we're also using a native layer 1 to layer 2 bridge to connect to these other chains and have two modules for our state protection, the omni-state channel indexer and the verifiable state aggregator. The omni-state channel indexer more specifically does four main things and has four main functionalities. The first one is that it controls the sequencer to build batches based on the chronological order of the target chain's state, which ensures that the sequence in which transactions are completed is correct. Then the second is that the contract strictly manages the index configuration to block heights within Cycle, which makes sure that transactions are, and that integrity is where it needs to be. Then thirdly, adding a target chain to Cycle is done through governance, which maintains transparency across our community and network. And finally, the control from the indexer contract allows for the replay of all transactions and processes that maintains consistency and coherency across the network. Then now we're going to be discussing the solutions that we're trying to provide to the space and what we're currently building. And the first one is what we call liquidity aggregator. Cycle network being able to connect to blockchains in a seamless and trustless manner allows us to aggregate liquidity in an abstract layer, and this is what we call liquidity abstraction. And we also work with liquidity providers that provide additional liquidity to the network and chains or dApps that might be in need for it. And that is why we've partnered with LTP, which is APAC's premier broker, serving more than 25 countries and having an annual trading volume of over $400 billion to build a product we call Liquidity Faucet. And what projects and chains have to do to access this liquidity is simply integrate our SDK. Then the second solution that we're building has to do with a full chain or omni-chain account. Again, Cycle network being able to connect to other chains in a seamless and trustless manner makes each account on Cycle network a full chain or an omni-chain account. This means that users can manage their assets from a single place in a self-custodial manner and makes the whole process a lot more secure, efficient, and cost-effective. And the product we've built to showcase this capability is Piggy Bank. And people using Piggy Bank can do two main things. The first one is manage their assets from different chains from a single place in an aggregated dashboard that you can find on Piggy Bank. And the second is what we call breachless cross-chain mint. And we've been using this capability to collaborate with many notable projects in the space to carry out what we call breachless NFT minting campaigns. And some of the projects that we have collaborated with to carry out these campaigns include IoTex, BetaChain, Manta, UXLink, and BVM from the BTC network. And the way that would work would be the following. A user would go to the Piggy Bank platform, they would connect their MetaMask wallet, and once they did, they would be able to simply click mint at one of those mystery boxes over here to automatically mint an NFT on the target chain. What is interesting about this whole process is that this would be done without the need to breach and without the need to even have the end chain's assets to begin with. And by carrying out these campaigns for our partners, we have been able to help them acquire tens of thousands of new users in just a matter of a few days. And that is why, at this point in time, we have over 250,000 accounts on Piggy Bank, and we've issued more than 190,000 NFTs. In terms of what we have achieved so far, the project started quite early. In October 2022, that's where our founder started working on this solution. In March 2023, we had our first demo. In September of the first year, we completed our first round funding and launched our first testnet. Then in February 2024, we launched another testnet. We had our first use case, and we launched Piggy Bank. In April, we started connecting to the BTC ecosystem and testnet. In May 2024, we launched version 2 of Piggy Bank. In June of this year, we launched our first Telegram app, which has been able to attract more than 200,000 participants in just a matter of a few days, within 1 week. And in July, we launched our first mainnet. So far, we've integrated more than 20 different chains, and we've launched different products and established more than 60 partnerships with notable projects. In terms of what is coming next, as I said, we have launched our mainnet a couple of months ago, and in Q3 of this year, we'll be launching our unified liquidity SDK product. Before the end of the year, we'll also be releasing our token, and we'll have a ZK aggregate proof performance improvement. And at some point in 2025, we'll be supporting parallel VM. So if what you hear here today sounds interesting and you want to help us empower the boundless creativity of Web3, please do come and find us, and we'll be more than happy to find ways to work together and find ways to contribute to one another and make the space, the Web3 space, a lot better. Thank you very much for your time.